is
Nathan Hirsch.
Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Digital Nomad Mastery, the podcast and the videocast where we teach you how to make money while traveling the world. And we have a special guest today. His name is Nathan Hirsch. We're going to be finding out about his company called Freed Up. But before we do, we want to welcome back a co-host, Scott Patton. And me and Scott started this podcast way back in the day, and we're already up to 60 plus interviews. And Scott's been on a little bit of a hiatus because he's been traveling around England, and now he's back, settled down, grinding away as a digital nomad. So to start off with, why didn't you give us a quick update about your travels, and then we'll get a guest onto the show, Scott.
All right. Thank you, Ricky. Well, like you said, I've been around southern England. I spent 3 days in London, and then I spent a few days in Oxford and Cambridge. Felt very, very smart while I was there. Beautiful, beautiful old cities. And then I went down to Brighton, which is right on the English Channel, and drove up and down the coast to Kent and saw Leeds Castle. And there's a lot of castles, a lot of palaces. We saw the place where Winston Churchill was born. I didn't realize he was almost royalty, but he was born in the largest non-royalty palace in England. It's spectacular. It's just amazing how big some of these places are, and full of just like this one room has a carpet in it that is worth $3 million. So you're not allowed when you're visiting the Duke to take port or red wine into that room because they'll kill you if you drop anything on the carpet.
Wow.
So now I'm in Moldova, which is just north of Romania, which is just north of Greece. Beautiful here. It's nice and sunny. It's warm. I'm very, very excited because I am in a co-working space called iHub, and the internet is like 80 megs up and 80 megs down. They have a room here for Skype calls and stuff, so I have some privacy. I can make as much noise as I want without disturbing everybody. So it gets 2 thumbs up. iHub, thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, it's a pleasure to have you back. It's not the same without my tag team partner on these podcasts. So looking forward to having you back on the next few episodes. So yes. Today we have our guest, Nathan Hirsch, and he's started a company called Freee Up. And it's actually spelled with 3 E's. So we're going to be finding out about that, the 3 E's in the company, and a little bit about himself. So Nathan's actually in Orlando, Florida. So the Disneyland, the Epcot Studios of the world. So we want to find out a little bit
about... Where are you, Ricky, did you say?
Sorry. I kind of get so excited about a guest and a co-host that I forgot to talk about myself. I'm actually in Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago, in the midst of a big storm. So we've been trapped indoor in a hotel for the last few days because everything's been closed. Hotels, restaurants, shops, schools, even the airport got shut down because of the big storm here. All flights into and out of Trinidad have been delayed for 2 days. So it's pretty scary. I've never been stuck on an island when everything's closed because I'm actually from a city, Vancouver, BC, Canada. But we're currently traveling, and it was quite the adventure being locked indoor while there was a storm with winds almost up to 100 kilometers an hour. So pretty scary out there. Even rooftops were actually literally blown away. So it's quite the adventure, so to speak. We're safe, thanks God. And now we're actually able to sightsee and enjoy a little bit of Trinidad rather than being cooped up here in a guest house. So that's a little bit about where I am. So Nathan's over there in Orlando, and he has a company called Freee Up. Freee Up. So I love the little play on words. It's a way to differentiate yourself as an entrepreneur when you have a little play on words or a little E here and there. So I want to ask Nathan a little bit more about himself and about his travels, and then we'll get Scott and me to tag team the rest of the questions. So go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers today.
First of all, thanks for having me. Second, I'm very jealous. You guys are traveling some awesome places. I actually just got back from Mexico a few days ago. So I'm kind of settling right back in from my travels, and it's kind of cool talking to people in different parts of the world, which is kind of what I do all day anyway. But so I started my first company when I was in college. I was a broke college kid looking for extra beer money. I got mad at the school bookstore because I thought they were ripping me off. I was paying hundreds of dollars for textbooks only to sell them back for pennies on the dollar. So I was like, all right, I can cut them off. I can start my own bookstore business. And before I knew it, I had lines out the door of people trying to sell me their textbooks. So the school obviously didn't like that. And I knew that I couldn't sell textbooks forever. So what I wanted to do was come up with a way that not only gave me freedom, but also allowed me to not have to carry around anything or hold inventory, because I was a college student. That wasn't realistic. So I came up with drop shipping years before I knew what drop shipping actually was. The concept that I would sell a product that I didn't actually have, buy it from vendors all over the world, all over the US. I could be anywhere, and I simply receive the orders, get the vendor to ship it from their warehouse to the customer, and handle the customer service emails. So it was a company that could completely be remote. And so I ended up growing that. Before I knew it, I was running a multi-million-dollar business out of my college dorm room. And from there, I graduated. I ended up opening up an office, which was a big mistake because I just added overhead to a business that required no overhead. And I quickly went back to remote. And you guys know the benefits of being remote. And what I quickly realized from there is just the hassle of hiring. I mean, if I wanted to hire someone, it could take me 2 to 3 weeks. And then even after that, who knows if they're even going to work out. And if I invest training into them and one day they quit, I'm right back where I started. So I really wanted a better solution because I was hiring hundreds and hundreds of people, and it was just taking up way too much time, and it wasn't something I enjoyed. So I came up with Freee Up, which does it differently. Instead of being a marketplace like Upwork and Monster, where you post a job, get 100 applicants, interview them one by one, like I was doing. Instead, we get hundreds of applicants every week to get into our network. We pre-vet them, we interview them. We have a great interview process based on my 8 years of hiring. And then we take the top 1%, we add them to our network, and we make them available to our clients on a first come, first serve basis. So our clients love it because they get access to workers quickly. And on the back end, we're insurance against turnover. I mentioned how much I hate turnover. We cover all retraining costs and get them a new worker right away if that ever happens. So the cool thing about Freee Up is I have 500 plus workers in my network from all over the world. I just met 2 of them in Mexico. So I kind of have an excuse to travel and meet all these people. And the same thing with my clients. I have clients in Europe and Greece and Israel and Canada and everywhere. So it's kind of it's been an awesome experience that it almost gives me an excuse to travel and meet all these people while running 2 remote companies.
That's really cool, Nathan. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show was because we're all about digital nomads, and one of the problems digital nomads have is work.
Yeah, I mean, it is tough. A lot of people, they want that freedom, and it's tough to not only find a job, but then once you get it, you're kind of stuck right there. So, I mean, what I've realized and what I've had a lot of freelancers do is they'll start freelancing a little bit. They'll take these part-time jobs here and there, maybe on the weekends or at night. And then once they realize how much they love it, they end up dropping their main job, becoming freelancers, having a variety of different clients. So they're more diverse anyway if a client ends up dropping them. And then they realize, hey, I can do this anywhere. Let's travel the world and enjoy life and make the most of this opportunity.
Cool. So what sort of job skills are in high demand, in your opinion?
Yeah, so we offer everything from bookkeeping to digital marketing to customer service to writing, really anything that can get done remote. And when I started Freee Up, it was much more of Amazon focused because that was my background. But then I realized, hey, all these Amazon sellers, they need photographers, they need graphic designers, they need writers, they need people who can build their own website so they can get off of Amazon. So it kind of expanded to the point where there really isn't much I can't offer unless you need like a janitor or someone like a warehouse staff. We obviously don't do that, but a lot of jobs can get done remote, especially in the e-commerce industry. And what I've also found is I get a lot of doctors and lawyers and dentists and people who need real estate agents, people who need website or need support or need these remote workers. And it's kind of expanded outside of e-commerce.
Awesome. Maybe you could share more about the website itself and how it works, and give us a little bit of the logistics.
Yeah, so we make it really easy. It's free to sign up on the website. It takes 5 minutes. It's a sign up so we have your contact information, e-signature saying you won't try to steal our workers and you'll actually pay for the work. Payment method on file, where billing periods are Wednesday to Tuesday. We charge you every Thursday. So it's super simple on that. You get access to your account. You can see all your workers, how much they're billing. It's automatic. And whenever you need a worker, you click request a worker right in your account, fill out some questions so we know exactly what you want. Within hours or usually even minutes, we introduce you to someone. You can meet them first, make sure that we got it right. If you like them, click the hire button and you're good to go. If for whatever reason we got it wrong, which usually we don't, you can click request a new worker and provide us feedback, and we'll take your feedback and get you someone else. It's really that simple.
How many hours would a freelancer, I mean, I think this is probably an impossible question to answer, but I'm just kind of curious, how many hours would a freelancer normally work during the week?
Yeah, I mean, I have workers that work 50 hours a week. I have some that do it part-time, 5-10 hours a week. I mean, we try to avoid hiring people that can only work like 5 hours a week just because it's not worth it for us to interview and go through that whole process to not get a return later on. But I mean, a lot of people are in that part-time 10 to 30 hours a week. And I have plenty of people that do it full-time, and they have either one client who needs a lot of hours or a variety of clients. And the cool thing is you can adjust. If you have a 20-hour a week client and one day you're like, hey, I want to add 5 more hours, you just take on another part-time job that makes it available. Because when you're a client, we have no limits. You can hire people full-time, one-time projects, part-time, and we're trying to fill those other hours with other clients, but we can get you the workers you need for those hours.
Awesome, Nathan. I had a chance to look at your website before the interview. We have about 60 plus guests who are digital nomads on our show, and a lot of them are freelancers, so they might be a good fit for your website. So what are the requirements for you on your side to filter out the freelancers? So if I wanted to send people your way, how do you filter?
Sure. So we're not a marketplace for newbies. We're looking for people that have a lot of experience in whatever they're doing. Years of experience with a track record of success, people who have done freelancing before, people who have a lot of experience. So that's the skill set side. The next, we're looking for people with a positive attitude. We want people who are passionate about what they do, who really enjoy doing it, who are in it for more than just a paycheck, and who can actually care about something more than just themselves, who actually will care about the client's business and treat it like it's their own. And then on the communication side, we're looking for people that have excellent communication. I mean, that's a no-brainer for us. I mean, we kick people out of our network very quickly. I mean, if you're traveling, if we have to chase you down, if you're not updating your clients, if you're not giving your clients constant updates about what's going on, if you don't let my internal team know on days where you can't work so that we're not just running around with our heads cut off trying to find you, you're not going to stay in our network. We're going to get rid of you. And we have 15 pages of communication guidelines that we make our workers memorize and get tested on, because that's how seriously we take communication. And that's why clients hate remote workers in the past, is because of poor communication. No one wants to chase down a worker in the Philippines to get their job done.
Great point. Great point. So what are some of the other issues that you find between the remote workers? And I think it was a great point that you made, right, about, communication between the remote worker and the client is crucial, because if he's off, kayaking in the Greek islands and he doesn't tell everybody that's what he's doing this day, it can cause some problems, particularly if you have a project that you were hoping to launch while he was kayaking. So what are some of the other issues that you notice that come up from time to time?
Yeah, and one cool thing about us is we protect our clients from that. If a worker does make a bad decision and they end up messing up a client, or they end up not communicating and the client is kind of stuck there in a project, obviously we're kicking the worker out of the network, but we're also going to cover the cost of it and get the client a new worker and make sure that project gets done, so the client doesn't have to spend another 3 to 4 weeks recruiting someone to take that person's replacement. So our clients are protected on that end. Other updates are just letting people know when they're working. The other thing is doing a discovery phase. Let's say you have a huge project. The last thing I want is for my clients to tell a worker 3 sentences for this huge project, have this worker build hours and hours and hours of time into it, only for the client to say, hey, you know what, that isn't exactly what I wanted, because no one wins in that situation. So we have processes where hey, if you're hiring an expert, the first 1 to 2 hours is you're going over your goals, your expectations. You're letting the worker do their due diligence and their research. The worker is showing you a game plan that includes hourly estimates, and you're working with them to tweak it. And only then, when the client approves it, do you get started in execution. And on top of that, the workers work on approved hours. If they work any hours without approval, written approval from the client, they don't count. They're not billable. So we want our workers to be like, hey, this project is going to take me estimate 6 hours. Do you approve? And if the client says yes, great, do it. If the client's like, whoa, I didn't want to spend 6 hours, I can't make my workers work less than they can, but I'm happy to give the client other workers and other options to talk to.
Sounds good, Nathan. Right now there's a few websites operating on a similar business model. The ones I can think of right now are Fancy Hands. I think that's a monthly subscription model. There's obviously Upwork, one of the biggest ones for freelancers. There's Fiverr. How would you say Free Up? How would you differentiate Free Up from those other ones?
Yeah, so Free Up is different because it's much more hands-on. Like I kind of said before, they're marketplaces. You go on, if you're a client, you post a job, you get a lot of applicants, and you kind of have to do that interview process yourself. And on the worker side, almost the same thing. You're going on, you're creating a profile, and you're applying for jobs, and you're competing with all these other people applying for jobs, and it takes up a lot of time. And as a freelancer, when you factor in not only the hours that you're billing, but also the hours that you're spending interviewing and getting a job, and sometimes there's multiple levels of interviews, whereas us, it's a fast hire process. Our clients only get 10 to 15 minutes to talk to the workers before hiring them. It's just a much more fast, streamlined process, which is what business owners need. Time is money. I mean, if you're a worker in our network, if we're like, hey, do you want a job? We introduce you to a client, you can be hired in the next hour and good to go. And you know that you're not competing with all these other people out there. We're picking that right fit for the client. So we're the faster marketplace, the more efficient. We pre-vet workers. We interview them for the clients so they don't have to. And we also protect our clients and hold our workers to incredibly high standards on the back end by enforcing these communication policies, by making sure the worker is never left out without someone to complete their project. So that's really the difference between us and the other marketplaces.
Nathan, are there any areas where you see a lot of demand for certain skills, but you're having a harder time finding those people? And the reason I'm saying that is if you say, oh, well, this area here, Facebook ads or something, there could be 10 or 15 people that are watching this are Facebook ad experts. So what are some of the areas if you're looking where you're seeing some high demand in?
Yeah, so development is huge. We're always looking for good developers. Anyone that with high level digital marketing, like you said, is huge. I mean, my digital marketers are book solid with work, and we're also always adding more people to the table. Anyone with a lot of e-commerce experience, obviously Amazon is the biggest marketplace. So if you have a lot of Amazon experience, if you know how to run campaigns and optimize listings, and you're up to date with recent trends, that's huge. There's a great opportunity for them. I've got lots of clients that sell there. So those are kind of the three: the development, the people that can build Shopify stores or even code and WordPress and stuff like that, or the digital marketing, the Facebook ads, the Google ads. People who can do that at an extremely high level and actually make clients money. And then the Amazon experts or e-commerce experts in general.
Awesome, Nathan. I noticed on your website that you have two types of workers, the US and the non-US. So I assume the US means anyone in the Western world, because obviously Canada, England, they're not going to charge non-US prices. Is that the case there with the US versus non-US? And tell us about the difference in the type of quality and the type of workers between the two categories.
Sure. So we're about 40% US, 40% Philippines, and 20% scattered around the world. You're right that if we do have plenty of workers from Mexico and Canada and Europe, and they don't charge Filipino prices, but they're almost a step below US. Not always. It really depends on the worker. So I have plenty of non-US workers that make $40 an hour, and that's comparable to the US. So whenever clients ask me, should I hire US or non-US, it's really a personal preference. I have plenty of non-US workers that I would put up against any US worker, but there are also clients that have never worked with someone outside of the US before, and there are cultural differences. There are things you have to take into account. So it's something that maybe even if the person has the same skill set, maybe that particular client isn't comfortable with it, so it's not the right fit, so we get them a different client. So with that, I always ask clients what they're trying to do there. The other side of it is finances. If the client is a startup, maybe they can't afford to hire a US person for $30 an hour, and instead it's better off for them to pay 7 or 8, because if they hire that 30 person, they're going to run out of money quick and let that person go anyway. So we don't want that to happen either. So it really depends on the person and the situation. I never am like, oh, this person's better or this person's worse. It really just depends on the situation, what the client's trying to do.
Well, I think you covered it pretty well. Do you have any tips for freelancers and digital nomads in terms of, I'm just trying to think of any issues or any problems that you've noticed come up over and over again between clients and digital nomads?
Yeah, so a lot of people that are freelancing and traveling, and a lot of people that don't get into the Freee Up network, can't understand what the clients want. What they want is reliability. A lot of them, they don't care about when you work. They care about if stuff gets done. They care about if they're updated. They care about if you can be honest, if you can give an estimate and actually stick to it. So put yourself in their shoes. If you're applying for jobs, if you're trying to get in the Freee Up network, if you're working with a client directly, any client, even someone that you've worked with for years, what do they want? And sometimes you can even ask them and find out from them directly. But a lot of people, for whatever reason, I haven't been able to figure this out because it comes naturally to me, but I can tell that it doesn't for a lot of freelancers, is figuring out that fine line from having freedom as a freelancer to being able to keep some kind of stability with the client. And that's really what they're looking for. And that's where that fine balancing act comes in.
You know, in my travels, I've traveled to about 66 countries, and there's so many cultural differences, and that's part of why I traveled, to discover those and to understand them and to really relate to people who are on the other side of the globe, so to speak. So with you, obviously, and your clients who hire remote workers, there are major cultural differences, which you alluded to. So tell us about that. I mean, what is the major cultural differences and struggles with the culture, the language, time zones, etc., that people face?
Sure. So I have workers that work all time zones. I have Filipinos that work Filipino time only, and Filipinos that work US times and Euro time. So that's not as much of an issue. The client can request what time zone they want, and we're only going to introduce them to a worker that can work that time zone. In terms of the culture, one example that I have that was personal for me is I have a great AE all-star team of assistants, 20 of them that do everything from monitor my emails and Skypes and do marketing and do social media. So when I was first hiring, and Chicky Ann, who runs my HR, and I've worked with her for years, when I was first hiring her, I'm a very direct person. I don't offend US people, I don't think, now that I've heard of, but I tell people how it is. I'm very straight to the point. Like, if I want something done, I'm like A, B, C, and D, let's just get this done. And one day she pulled me aside and she's like, Nate, you're being rude to all these workers. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, you have to remember, we're emotional, Filipino women, we're not used to being talked to that way. So, and I was like, listen, I'm not trying to offend you. Can you give me some tips? Can you give me some advice on how to approach that? Because we're all on the same team here. We all want to get the same thing out of it. And so she told me straight up on how to reword things and how to talk to people differently and avoid any slang or any gray areas that could be misinterpreted. And since then, we've had a great relationship, and I kind of know how to get the most out of workers. So whenever I see clients shoot off these quick, right to the point emails that I know can be taken offensive, even though my workers are professionals, I sometimes approach them and I'm like, hey, first of all, are you open to feedback? Because who am I to tell you if you're not? But if you are, here's some suggestions that I've learned from hiring people from all around the world for the past few years. Longer than that. It's been 6+ years. Time flies.
Well, Nathan, I know that you've got to go get your parents. They're flying in right now. So I want to thank you very much for joining us. Our guest today has been Nathan Hirsch. He's a serial entrepreneur and expert in remote hiring and e-commerce. He's been selling online for over 7 years and has sold well over $20 million worth of products through his e-commerce business. He's now the co-founder and CEO of Freee Up. Nathan, thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. Quick note on that. So my parents did it right. They worked for years. They saved up, and now they just spend their entire retirement traveling the world. That's literally all they do. I live in Florida. My sister lives in Seattle. They spend time going back and forth. They spend very little time in Massachusetts. They just go to Europe and Mexico and all these different countries, just traveling nonstop. So I feel like they're living the dream, and I'm trying to like get to that, you know?
Sounds like you're well on your way.
Exactly.
We almost have to have we have to interview your parents as well about how they work and travel around the world.
I know. Real quick thing before I go, if you go to freeup.com, if you mention this podcast, you get $1 off your first worker forever. You can book a meeting with me right at the top. It's a free meeting. I'd love to talk to you right about your company, what you're up to. If you're a worker, you should definitely apply right on the website or email HR@freeup.com. They handle all of that. And we look forward to having you in the network, and I look forward to talking to you. And thanks so much for having me on your show, you guys.
So do you want to quickly share about your website and the social media if people want to follow you and connect more, find out more?
Yeah, find me on Facebook and Twitter, The Real Nate Hirsch, Freee Up, the Freee Up social media pages, and also the online hiring mastermind group. We post a lot of good content in there about hiring and managing and getting the most out of your workers.
Thank you, Nathan. Appreciate having you on the show.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning into this episode of Digital Nomad Mastery, where we teach you how to make money while traveling the world. And if you are a remote worker, I highly recommend connecting with Nathan. He'll get you plugged into the system and get you some work so then you can extend your travels to infinity and beyond. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes. Make sure you leave us a rating and review. If you're watching this, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. And we'll catch you in the next episode. Happy travels, everyone. And may your travel dreams come true as well.